Mince pies. I push my fingers into mince pies. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to a beer that, if you were following me about a year ago, might look somewhat familiar. Yes, that's right, this time last year I reviewed a beer from Black Irish Brewery, who this beer is also from, and it was called I Push My Fingers Into My Pies. Now that beer, I still happen to have the can because this beer basically all but got Beer of the Year last year and was picked to the post on Christmas Eve by the one that ended up winning. But as a result, it was so good, I ended up keeping the can. Now, we can do a little can comparison in a minute, but the reason I might seem a bit excited today is because, well, this is the same beer, as in it's the same beer that was brewed at the same time. However, for the last year, it's been maturing away, barrel aging, has had a host of Christmas spices added to it, and well, it was only just beaten for Beer of the Year last year. This now could be invincible. But before we get into exactly what they've done, what's changed and how it differed from what I remember last year, well, we need to give this one a try, don't we? So before I crack it open, here is a quick look at the can. Now, I mean, it's pretty impressive artwork there. I push my fingers into mince pies. Clearly a Slipknot band themed beer, which I'm a big fan of because I'm a big fan of that band. But this is a kind of a Christmas version of the previous beer, I guess. So yeah, very apt for the time of year. The ABV has gone up a little bit by 0.5%. It's now a solid 11 rather than 10.5 as it was before. But yeah, just look at that can. Right then, let's get into it. Now, I've just realised in my understandable excitement for this beer that I've actually forgot to tell you what even the beer is. It is meant to be a rum barrel-aged mince pie Imperial Stout, hence the whopping 11%. In the glass then, I mean, it looks thick, rich and decadent. I'm surprised the head is still hanging about, to be honest, given it is 11%. It's got a nice kind of closed bubble, almost toffee, deep, rich coloured head on it. The beer is, as far as I can tell, absolutely, yeah, that's a jet black beer. Absolutely no light creeping through there whatsoever. But yeah, just a lovely looking thing. Just look at it. Just look at this thing. Now, it was a little bit violent on opening, I have to say, although I did have to wrestle it off a can pack connector, which might be why. But yeah, I got quite a lot of aroma from that. And well, let's do it properly, shall we? Yes! Yes, 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 yes. I was saying just a few days ago about another beer that recently got a tip for Beer of the Year this year that, well, there hasn't been many that really made me go, yes, that is a proper contender. Wow. I mean, that is an absolute delight on the aroma. It's got just a menagerie of booze notes. There's brandy, rum, the actual heat from the beer itself, and I mean, it doesn't half smell like a mince pie. It's got sweet, syrupy, dried raisins, a bit of a candied nuts even. It's got real delicious, rich, sweet flavours, and then cutting across the top of everything, a real big waft of fresh orange peel that, oh, I mean, if this tastes even half as good as it smells, then we're in for an absolutely fantastic day. Right then, here it is, and I guess with that, a Merry Christmas to you as well. Let's give it a go. Cheers. I don't know what to tell you. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, honestly, that is like nothing else. It really isn't. I mean, I remember the beer from last year, and to be honest, it doesn't taste a whole lot like it. I can understand that the base is the same. I do wonder if they barrel aged it without some of the additives that then went into that beer, because that was more of a kind of Bakewell tart themed beer. This one, obviously mince pie inspired, so quite a different taste profile there, but that is as close to Christmas in a can and as I think you're ever going to get. Just giving that a minute to come up to temperature a little bit more. It's not freezing cold, but it could be a touch warmer, and I want that to be there before I do the top to bottom taste test. So in a bit of a strange turn of events for once, we're actually going to look at the cans first. So here is the one from last year, here is this year's, and as you can tell on the front, well, actually last year's we got Chris and Craig, I think it is, on the front there from Slipknot, and on this one, Corey and Joey. I mean, yeah, they've chosen different members, they're different looking cans. Very nice as a set, actually, if we stick those together. There we go, just about get everyone on in one go. But, I mean, what we're really interested in is, well, how different is the beer? So, looking at the descriptions, the previous one was a Cherry Bakewell Imperial Stout, 10.5%, and this is a rum barrel-aged mince pie Imperial Stout. I think the answers to our questions, though, are probably going to be found in the ingredients list. So, on the one from last year, the three main ingredients are malted barley, wheat, and oats. However, on the beer from this year, it's malted barley, oats, and lactose. Now, whilst the beer from last year did include lactose, it included a lot less than this year's did. However, there is no wheat listed on this year's beer at all. I did think, despite being a bit stronger, it might be just a little bit thinner, which we'll talk about when we get properly to the taste test. But otherwise, last year's beer was sugar, hops, yeast, cherry puree, strawberry puree, vanilla pods, almond essence, lactose again, and water. Whereas this year, it is quite different with molasses, muscovado, sugar, hops, orange zest, lemon zest, vanilla, caramel extract, cinnamon, cloves, natural flavourings, yeast, and water. So, it's fair to say they're not shying away from the fact that these are massive, big, adjunct-filled beers. But in this style, with what they're trying to do, with what they've created here, I've got no issue with that whatsoever. There is no more information really on the can, only Black Iris's address and socials at Black Irish Brewery or Black Irish Brewer if you're on Twitter. Being 11%, there is a whopping 4.84 units in this can. And the best before date is the 31st of December next year, which, well, I bought a few of these expecting good things, and maybe, just maybe, we'll save one and see how it turns out in a year's time. So, temperature's crept up a little bit. This, for me, is now in kind of the optimum range, so let's get on with it, shall we? Top to bottom taste test. So, initially, soft, inviting, not very carbonated, but a hint of spice on the front of the tongue. With cinnamon, clove, almost, weirdly, almost a bit of a ginger heat, even though there's none listed in the ingredients. But yeah, it's got some fire for sure. And on the second phase, you start to dip strongly immediately into that mince pie territory. It's got that nice, luscious, sweet mincemeat flavour. All the dried fruits, all the nuts, berries, the works, it's all in there. But nice, soft, pillowy. But as I did say a minute ago, maybe a little thin for the style, but it doesn't really matter because the taste is doing wonders. And as you swallow, you get that orange, lemon, zesty, fruity nature. It really cuts the palate quite clean. It's not a stodgy beer, especially, as I said again, about the body on it, but also that zestiness really cleans out anything that could become a bit too thick, a bit too cloying. This is big, rich, and decadent, but without being stodgy, which is, well, quite impressive, really. And then the aftertaste, big citrusy background again, but then a few of those more nuanced flavours come in. The kind of the nutty, slightly semi-savoury element of the mincemeat. And whilst I wouldn't say it was particularly caramel or vanilla forward, there's this kind of resinous sweetness that just stops any of those bigger flavours becoming all a bit too much. And what I will say about this, as I'm sipping it, is it's starting to remind me of lots of different things depending on which element of the beer you focus on. If you focus on that mincemeat component, then it's very much more a thick, sweet stout. If you focus on those sharp citrus peel edges, then it becomes, well, to be honest, almost a bit confused. I wouldn't try and linger on those too much. However, if you just roll with it, don't overanalyze it, and enjoy it for what it is, you start to get hints of things like a rusty nail cocktail, and I don't know, that's something that maybe I associate with Christmas personally. I don't know if anyone else does, but post-Christmas dinner, you don't want large volumes of booze. You're too full, you can't do it. A rusty nail gives you a bit of sweetness from the drambuie or similar liqueur, a bit of sharpness from the whiskey, and, well, just a nice bit of refreshing, cutting citrus from the citrus peel that's normally in it. And I'm getting that here. It's not afraid to be brash, but somehow, with all those big flavours, it results in something alarmingly balanced and palatable. So, I've drank about half of that beer. I don't want to rush the second half of it because, well, frankly, I won't be able to do anything else this evening if I do. So we are going to try and summarise this a bit further. One of the big questions, obviously, right now is, well, was it better than last year's beer? And does it get a Beer of the Year nomination? Well, yes and no. Or should that be no and yes? I'm hard pressed to say that it's better than last year's beer, mainly because I can't do them side by side. But, well, when I had last year's beer, I'd not had anything quite like it before. I'd had attempts from breweries at making big, brash, bold, puddingy pie stouts, but, well, they always felt a bit too sweet and a bit whatever, whereas last year's, when I tried that for the first time, it really was an eye-opener as to what is possible. But having known that when I ordered this one, my expectations were already sky high. So I'm not surprised that it's fantastic, and therefore, because I'm not surprised, I'm not as maybe overwhelmed as I was with it last year. But that said, they've executed it perfectly. The barrel aging was a stroke of genius. The rum isn't obviously present, but there's a lingering. After you finish, and again, it just melts into everything else to produce this nice, rich, sweet, boozy sensation that, yeah, absolutely top draw. As much as I love bourbon barrel-aged stouts, rum on this one I think was absolutely the right place to go. And whilst it might not have bowled me over quite as much as the previous beer, it's still by far one of the best I've had this year, which means, of course, it is absolutely getting a Beer of the Year nomination simply as a result. Sometimes it's difficult because we can't have that first experience for the first time every time, but that's just the way it is. So it is a big thumbs up from me. If you like mince pies, big, heavy, festive flavours, and you can deal with, yeah, intensity, but balanced intensity is the real trick that this one is playing, then you are going to absolutely adore this one. And that, I think, is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you would be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.